I do want to question
Yeah.
that the current cuts to the VA
Yeah.
have a potential direct impact
Mm-hmm.
On soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you suggest people do if they find that lifeline and that essential service is no longer available to them?
Mm-hmm.
What are your concerns, and have you guys talked about the impact of those cuts?
We have not. We have
Okay.
not talked about those cuts yet. We know about them. We were going to have an event Saturday night that got canceled because of the cuts and because of protests.
Okay.
And so, but we haven't had deep discussions about it yet. I will say that I am not familiar. I'm still, even after all of this, only remotely familiar with the VA.
Okay.
And I've heard a lot about the VA from veterans. And man, how do I say this? I don't even know if I have a right to say this. I hope that I hope that something is established that is even better.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that the VA has let a lot of people down at times.
Yeah.
So I know it's not black and white.
Yeah. I remember on set, and I just told this story recently, on set in the Music in the Park scene. I was speaking to a veteran. I believe he was a Vietnam veteran, Army. And he was saying, there's 90% of the cast are veterans, and so they would just talk to us. They would just answer all of my questions. And I was talking to him about his journey when he came back, and his post traumatic growth journey, and he was he was in his 70s, and he had really gone through it, and he said, it does something to you. It does something to you when you come back and you are, shunned. Like, it really does something to your brain. He was like, you've already gone over and experienced things that are not human. And he said, and then you come back and you're forgotten. And he was like, and it really, it really, really screws your brain up.
Yeah.
He was like, and I think honestly, that's one of the hardest parts about it. And he's not the only one that I've heard that from. And so I think that, listen, as humbly and respectfully as I can, I will say that I think that there has to be a holistic approach.
Agreed.
And I think that we civilians can play a part in that too. I spoke, here I am. Yeah, okay. I have so many, thankfully, fortunately, I have so many conversations I can refer back to with veterans. But I spoke to another veteran who was just like, oh yeah, he was like, veterans weren't even treated well until the 90s. He said, I think he got out in like 90. I forget what year in the 90s. I'm not even gonna like spitball it, but he said, he was like, and even then I was told to walk it off.
Yeah.
And that was the case for so long. And I think that there's still, even now, a little bit of that. And I think especially for civilians and how we see veterans, they sometimes feel dehumanized by civilians because we think that they are either, heroes or just totally broken, or we deify them, or we just make them feel other. And we don't listen. And I learned that too. And I think that this is all a part of that holistic approach, because what I've learned from them is that people will not actually listen to them.
Mm.
And I wonder if your dad would say this, but, you know, I've heard from many of them. They say that, people will ask them questions and then glaze over when they start to answer those questions because it's uncomfortable. And to the point where this one Marine vet was like, so I'm like, I'm not talking to anybody because you're not actually hearing me, And and then even Kyle had said before, he was like, oh yeah, I made the decision a while back that I would just be like, yeah, war was hard.
Hmm. My dad's never talked about it. Yeah, never talked about it. Um, it's just one of those weird things that my dad served in Vietnam. We all know, but we don't really know anything.
Don't know any.
Do you know if there are any organizations doing good work with veterans right now that are helping with, that are boots on the ground helping?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we have the impact partners that are attached to the film. One of them being the Mission Continues, which is a great resource.
Great.
All three of them are, but the Mission Continues, especially because their goal is to give veterans, basically to help them frame their lives back home, so that they feel that the mission is continuing.
Yeah.
Because they turn into such pivotal, or not pivotal, but oh yeah, pivotal. They turn into these pivotal, members of society who are contributing so much wherever they are, right? It's like they're teachers, they're coaches, some might even get into security. And my nephew is one of them. He started his own security company. He's an Army veteran, and they become these obviously productive members of society, but the Mission Continues helps them and walks them through that. And then Kyle started a group for veterans who want to get involved in media. And the VME is the acronym. And why am I blanking? I believe it's Veterans in Media and Entertainment. But VME, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 98% sure is the acronym.
Okay.
But, he started that as well. And there are resources, right? I think that there should be more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there should be many more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.